Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. I've heard about a guy who came home from work early only to find his wife in bed with some strange dude. I've even heard of a guy who caught his wife in bed with a stranger at a neighbor's barbecue. A friend of mine decided to pick up his wife from work and invite her to lunch, only to find her sucking off her boss in the bathroom. As expected, all these revelations led to divorces. It never occurred to me that buying new tires 2 weeks ago would lead to my personal hell. All I wanted to do was just replace all 4 tires on my wife's Camry. As I have repeatedly seen over the years, nothing is simple. It turns out that as soon as the wheels were removed, the mechanics immediately realized that my brakes needed to be repaired. This, in turn, led to the fact that I had to sit in the waiting room for an hour and a half. First of all, I looked through the entire Sports Illustrated swimsuit magazine. Then I reviewed it again. Christy Brinkley is amazing, and I would have completely occupied myself with producing daughters with her, but I had to distract myself with Kate Upton, and I stared at her for the rest of the day. This woman is just a walking fantasy. That day, I made a mental note to buy a copy of each of the 3 editions with Kate on the cover, in completely different poses. I flipped through a few more issues of Sports Illustrated and then a golf magazine. Finally, I picked up the last magazine on the table. It was Cosmopolitan, and it had all the usual shit that most men just don't care about. Then one article caught my eye. It was a very informative little article on how to recognize that a spouse is either cheating or thinking hard about it. Towards the end of the article, the author explained what actions a concerned spouse should take, depending on whether you want to throw the scammer to the sidelines or find a way to stay married. I missed this very last part. I grinned at the latter approach. Well, who wants to stay married to a man who can't be trusted? I don't know much about what's going on in a woman's head, but any man with a drop of self-respect would wreak havoc in the life of a cheating fool wife. A man should be respected by his wife. It made me think about the fact that I took my wife for granted. In an effort to become a better husband and become more romantic, I started taking a shower when I came home from work. I didn't want my hygiene to be a problem when I was courting her at night. One evening I brought flowers home for no reason and surprised her very much. Last Friday we went to a very nice Italian restaurant, and then I invited her to dance, and we spent a few hours like that. It was obvious that she did not expect such attention from me, although I noticed that she did not look as pleased as I expected. It was on Monday, 2 weeks after I read the article. As usual, my wife and I, her name is Sue, returned from work at the same time. She's an accountant at an insurance company, and I sell heavy machinery at a network company. Unless I have a big sale, I always leave work at 5 to be with my family. My son Sean is in his 2nd year of college, and my daughter Emily is in high school. Sue had just parked in the garage when I pulled into the driveway. When I entered the kitchen, I saw her coming up the stairs. It was something out of the ordinary. She usually started dinner as soon as she got home. Out of curiosity, I decided to go up the stairs and see what she was doing. When I entered the bedroom, Sue was already standing naked under the shower in the main bathroom. She always took a shower in the morning before getting dressed, so it seemed strange to me. That's when I came up with this stupid article in Cosmo. One of the most important warning signs of a stray spouse was that they took a shower as soon as they returned home. I felt my face flush as anger overwhelmed me. I decided to go the straight way instead of playing cat and mouse with Sue. I quickly undressed and climbed into the large shower stall. I felt a little pleasure when she gasped in surprise. That's when I realized the flaw in my plan. We had been married for 24 years, but the sight of her naked body still took my breath away. "What are you doing here?" This was my wife's first reaction to my appearance. "What? Can't I take a shower with my wife after a long day at work?" I asked. The water had not yet warmed up to the normal temperature at which Sue took a shower. "Why are you looking at me like that?" "What is it?" she asked. I grabbed the soap, lathered up, and then quickly washed off the foam, while Sue sat in a daze as water and soap splashed on me and on her. When I was done, I opened the door and grabbed a towel to dry off. 10 minutes later, I was mowing the backyard. As I worked, I thought about the situation. I came out half-cocked. If that was what you could call an erection, then I was flaunting the reaction of a half-cocked man. Sue didn't have any signs of recent love, at least not until I gave them to her in the shower. Then I remembered that Sue always met with most of the office staff on Monday afternoon. Meetings always lasted until the end of the working day, so she didn't have the opportunity to do the dirty work at all, even if she was so inclined to it. I had no reason to even suspect her, except that she went to take a shower as soon as she walked through the front door. What does all this mean? I decided it would be wiser for me to become more observant. If she is cheating, or even considering it, there will be clear signs. I wished I had paid closer attention to the article I had viewed just a couple of weeks ago. "Why are we having dinner so late tonight, Mom?" Emily asked when we finally sat down to eat. "I heard you came home at the usual time. Did you fall asleep?" Sue looked at me with raised eyebrows as she answered our daughter's question. "Alice stumbled past my chair at our meeting on Monday. She spilled Coca-Cola on my dress and on my back. It was just before the end of the working day. I had to take a shower as soon as I got home. Somehow I lost track of time and took a very long shower. It helped me relax, maybe even too much. It was interesting. Did she claim that she took a shower immediately after returning home because someone had stained her back? It was possible, but I still promised myself that from now on I would pay much more attention to my wife's actions. We retired to the living room to watch TV after we cleaned up the kitchen. When the commercial started, Sue announced that she would make popcorn and quickly disappeared into the kitchen. I waited about 2 minutes before telling Emily I was going to get a beer and promised to bring her a soda. I was about to enter the kitchen when I heard Sue talking softly and obviously on her cell phone. I don't know if this has anything to do with my plan, but I've never seen him act like this. He was like an animal. My inertia didn't allow me to stop before I got into Sue's field of vision. She quickly stopped talking when she saw me enter the kitchen. It was Mary from work. She had a few questions about overtime. Once again, I felt my blood pressure jump sharply. What was Sue so worried about? Why is she so secretive? Not wanting to let the cat out of the bag and let my curiosity kill him, I just took a beer and a Coke and returned to the living room. And I started to wonder when I started mixing up established metaphors and also stopped completely trusting Sue. By the time I was asleep, I was no closer to solving it. I was already seething internally, thinking that my wife of more than 20 years had given some bastard something that should have belonged only to me. Somehow, this irritation turned into hormonal lust. I was lying naked in bed and waiting for Sue to finish messing around in the bathroom. I had some problems because she had been doing something there for God knows how long. As soon as she finally slipped under the covers and turned off the light, I was all over her. She was wearing pajamas, probably to distract my unwanted attention from her, but I ignored this futile attempt. As I got out of the saddle and rolled over to my side of the bed, I thought about how difficult it would be for her lover to match the strength and technique I had just demonstrated. I was quite sure that any thoughts that she might need a man on the side should have been swept away by the magnificent climaxes that I had just delivered to her. The next morning, I was having breakfast with Emily when Sue came down the stairs from our bedroom. "Wow, Mom, you look very beautiful. I didn't even know you had such clothes. Are you doing something special at work?" I watched incredulously as Sue blushed at her daughter's praise before answering. "Nothing special. I just decided to dress better." "Do I look good?" "You look great," Emily assured her. With that, Emily got up and walked over to her mother. As soon as she got close enough, she touched the aforementioned area, removing most of the makeup with her finger. "Phew, is that a bite mark? Did Dad do it?" Emily asked, turning to me. "Don't pay attention to the last question. I don't want to know anything about it. I'm just wondering why you decided to wear a dress that shows it. Some girls at school show hickeys as a badge of honor or something like that and dress up to show them off. Is that exactly what you're doing, Mom? It's just wrong in every sense. I understand how you feel, Emily. I thought so too when I was your age," Sue confessed. "I don't have time to change your point of view, and neither do our bodies. I'll just go back and redo my makeup." Emily opened her mouth as her mother turned and headed up the stairs. "What's gotten into you two? Don't start attacking me," I warned my daughter. "I've been a disgusting pervert for years. You've been telling me this since you were 10. Emily left for school before Sue returned. I tied my left shoe with my foot on the second rung of the ladder, as my feet have become inexplicably more difficult to reach over the past few years. I had just shifted from one foot to the other and was starting on my right shoe when Sue appeared on the stairs. I looked up when I heard her start to descend. Sue paused to kiss me on the cheek before heading to the garage and work. I thought about my options for a few minutes before giving up and going to work myself. As soon as I got to the office, I Googled cheating wives. There are hundreds of websites about it. One website proclaimed that cheating wives tend to trade themselves. They are less likely to have one-night stands, and they usually cheat with someone from their social group, for example, with colleagues from work. They are even more likely to leave their spouses than men who cheat. Reading this shit really didn't calm my fears in any way. I looked at another site, Cheating Wives, and found all sorts of information there. A change in attachment is a distinctive sign, regardless of whether they become more affectionate or less. Her phone habits may be another indicator. There were frequent changes in love habits. Then I Googled how to catch her. I had no doubt that very soon I would find a good lawyer with the help of Google. Damn this Google to hell. I hated that information I didn't want to have was so easily available. After reading a couple of websites, I decided to check her laptop when I had the opportunity and install several cameras in the house. That would be a good start. The thoughts were tearing at my brain. I was hoping that I wouldn't find out that she was cheating, but if that's the case, I wouldn't want to spend a lot of time or money to catch her. I wanted it to be easy. I just didn't want to delay. As much as I wanted to believe it, I couldn't ignore the signs. I'm going to have to divorce her and get back at her as hard as I can. It was self-evident, although this knowledge did not bring me comfort. When I got home that evening, Sue's car was already in the garage. The advantage of dressing lightly was that she was able to take off all her clothes and jump into the shower before I could get to him. I tore off all my clothes myself and left them lying on the bathroom floor when I practically ran into the shower. The damned woman was on her knees and smiling broadly. I got angry again. Poor fool. Why didn't she do this to me? Why did she have to learn all this from some vile fool who did not support her, did not love her, and was not ready to give his life for her, as I would have done? My anger boiled over. I lathered up and rinsed myself again, standing over my wife's prostrate body. I was emotionally and physically exhausted. I staggered out of the shower, dressed somehow, and went out to mow the yard. I wasn't angry anymore. I felt lonely and unloved. Some pathetic shit either took my wife or was going to win her over. I've given her all sorts of moments again, but will that keep her from playing? I wonder why she had such moments. I was rude, selfish, and inconsiderate. I knew I couldn't make love every night. I had limitations that I firmly understood had already been achieved. I quickly finished mowing the front yard and returned to the house. Sue was cooking dinner in the kitchen, and Emily was on the phone with a friend. I grabbed Sue's laptop and took it to the bathroom. This is the only place where I am always given complete privacy. In fact, no one in the family even entered the bathroom for an hour or so after I finished. It didn't take me long to examine Sue's browser history, and what I found was extremely discouraging. Sue often visited websites about cheating spouses, websites on how to get away from cheating, as well as how to catch a cheater. She was sure that she could easily deceive me. Before turning off her laptop, I ordered the delivery of a spy video camera the next evening to install it in my bedroom. Since yesterday, events have been moving at breakneck speed. On Monday, I arrived at my garage as a happily married man, but now that happiness was a million miles away. A few minutes later, sitting at the dinner table, I felt depressed. "Well, Mom, has anyone commented on this big old hickey today?" Emily asked her mother. "Actually, several women in the office have asked me about it," Sue beamed. "I told them I was married to a real animal. Sometimes your father just does whatever he wants with me. Maybe there is too much information for me?" Emily suggested. "Now that you ask about it, yes, I got some compliments from some guys. Our new IT guy almost drooled when he came to update my printer," Sue replied happily. "So you've achieved your goals? We have to go shopping on Saturday. We could buy you new push-up bras and low tops so you can go to work," my daughter suggested. "Your legs are still pretty slim. Some short skirts will look good on you." "Probably not," replied my wife, who has been married for more than 20 years. "I don't think I'm going to use underwear from now on. Today I tried to go to work like a real Scotsman, wearing a kilt on my bare ass, and it was great." "What the hell is wrong with you two?" I asked when I couldn't keep quiet anymore. "Do you want your mother to dress like a tramp? For her to go without underwear? What kind of daughter offers such things to her mother at all? What kind of mother and wife is this who doesn't even think about putting on the necessary things for work? Dad, don't be old-fashioned. She wants men to see her advantages and appreciate how good she looks. What's the big deal? Oh, what's the big deal? She's a mother and a wife, not some street cheater, I replied fervently. She's going to embarrass herself, me, and you, for that matter. Ladies don't go to work as cheap fools. I think you already know that. Whatever you say, Dad. Emily waved off and turned back to her mother. I jumped up from my seat at the table and stomped up the stairs, heading for bed. Emily had never been so disrespectful to me before. I realized that this was part of the collateral damage when the wife went astray. Morality disappeared along with discipline and common sense. In the morning, I decided to Google for divorce lawyers. I was at the limit of my abilities. I fell into a restless sleep and did not hear Sue come to me. The next morning at work, I got a call and was informed that the package had already been delivered. How is this even possible? I ordered it at 6 o'clock last night, and now it was on my doorstep. I decided to go home and arrange everything immediately. Janice, I need to go home for a few minutes, I explained to my new student. Try to sort things out while I'm gone. I'll be back as soon as I can. She just nodded at me and started painting her nails again. I shook my head and headed for my car. I've had to train real winners over the years, but Janice was one of a kind. She seemed to think that showing customers, who by the nature of the business were mostly men, a large amount of cleavage was all she needed to master this art. Unfortunately, she seems to have stumbled upon something. The 2 weeks she trained with me were very profitable. When I got home, I tore up the package. The instructions were clearly stated, and the installation was completed in less than an hour. I bought a small watch that had a camera hidden in it. It will detect movement and start recording video and audio to the laptop's hard drive, which I can hide in my home office, also known as the bathroom. The most difficult thing was to find a free outlet to connect the spy camera in the bedroom. I returned to work in less than 2 hours. Now that the camera was in place, I couldn't wait to see what it would show. As luck would have it, I had a call to a buyer who would take me in the same direction as my house later that day, so I decided to drop by there. Janice was driving with me when I turned onto my street, only to see Sue's car pulling out of our driveway. What the hell is going on? When her car turned the corner, I turned into my driveway. Without bothering to explain anything to Janice, I parked and raced into the house. I went straight to the bathroom and pulled my laptop out from under the towels where I had hidden it. I sat down at the kitchen table and turned it on. I installed the camera just a couple of hours ago, and I was already waiting for the results. My heart sank when I saw Sue talking to some pimply geek as they entered our bedroom. Thank you so much for doing this for me. I've been wanting to do this for over a week, but I didn't know how to approach you. While Sue was talking, Looney was walking around the room, apparently looking for something. Finally, he stopped in front of my hidden camera and looked down. The monitor suddenly went off. This little jerk somehow figured out that I hid the camera in the bedroom. Was that your wife with that little ferret? Janice's voice came from behind me. What are you doing here? This is personal shit, was my stunned response as I got up and headed for the stairs. It occurred to me that there might be some evidence in my bedroom. For example, a large wet spot on the sheet. Everything looked fine when I burst into the room, but that didn't stop me from taking the blanket off the bed to examine the sheets. I didn't find anything at all. Has Sue changed the sheets yet? I had to admit that she was very good at deception. I looked at my spy camera and saw that the cord was indeed disconnected. The strange thing was that a phone charger was connected to the outlet where the cord of my spy camera used to be. I was trying to figure out what it was when Janice spoke right behind my back. I was already tense, and her intrusion into my personal life made me lose my temper. I turned to growl at her when I suddenly realized what she was doing. I asked if you wanted to use me to get even with your wife? Janice repeated. What? That was my smart answer. Your wife seems to be making love to this Ichabod Crane, so why don't you come over to me? Damn it, I don't want to use anyone but my wife. I roared, a little confused. What you don't understand is that I don't want to use you or anyone else except Sue. It seems like I'm not doing my business here in my bedroom enough like I should be. I need to get her back. I think she'll be even more likely to get lost if I pick up a few sexually transmitted diseases from you. I reasoned cruelly. Get dressed and don't ever try to do this to me again, or I'll fire you. My wife is a real lady. I don't want you to even mention her name in front of me." I growled, pushing the topless fool out of my bedroom. Janice was surprisingly taken aback by my shout. "You're a really good guy. Your wife is an idiot. Now let's go sell heavy machinery. I need to get my self-esteem back." It turned out that the guy we called was susceptible to Janice's charms. He told me he was looking for an excavator. He ended up buying it, as well as a small and hefty loader. He even arranged a date with Janice the next evening. By the time I returned Janice to the office and filled out the paperwork for the sale, it had been a full hour after my usual time to leave work. I was afraid to go home. In a very short time, I realized how important Sue was to me and how empty my life would be without her. I even thought about pretending I didn't know anything about her affair, in the hope that it was just an affair and she would come to her senses soon. I hung around the office for as long as I could. Unable to decide on a course of action, I decided to go home and act like everything was fine, at least until I could think rationally. When I entered my previously happy home, the living room was dark. There was a soft light coming from the kitchen, and I reluctantly headed there. The first thing I noticed was a candle burning near the toaster. Then I realized that candles were burning everywhere in the kitchen. Looking around, I was horrified to find Sue lying on the kitchen table, naked, just like the day she was born. Her body was covered with small slices of filet mignon, salmon, mashed potatoes, various fruits, and vegetables. "Dinner is ready. I'm just keeping it warm for you," Sue replied with a smile, looking at me lovingly. "Feel free to dig around here." I was completely overwhelmed with emotion when I saw this scene. My beautiful wife looked so incredibly attractive, but I couldn't muster any enthusiasm for the banquet she had prepared. "I'm not hungry, Sue. I might as well tell you what I know about you and that little IT rat from your office," I said grimly. "Really?" Sue asked in obvious surprise. "What the hell are you talking about?" I asked when I finally started to feel some emotions. "How could you know anything about me and Andrew in the bedroom?" "You weren't even at home," Sue said, not hiding her anger. "Just drop it, Sue," I replied dejectedly. "I know what you're up to. Did you know that I had this pimply guy install a spy camera in our room to catch you cheating? Did you put a camera in our bedroom to catch me cheating?" I repeated stupidly, trying to follow Sue's thought. "When did you do it? And more importantly, why did you do it? When did I ever give you a reason to think that I would cheat on our marriage? So you didn't know I had a camera in my room, but you still rejected that damn fool when she lunged at you? I love you so much. I'm sorry that I ever doubted you. I made this delicious dinner as an apology for ever doubting you," Sue replied, pointing to her set of delicacies before giving further explanations. "Mary from my office is the cousin of one of the mechanics working for your company. You never even mentioned her, and that surprised me. Then I read an article in Cosmo about how cheaters would act. Around the same time, you started taking a shower when you came home. This is one of the signs. And then you became really nice to me. You brought me flowers and even invited me to dinner and dancing. Again, these were the actions of a scammer with a guilty conscience. I was scared to death that I was going to lose you. I discussed it with Mary, and we came up with the idea that I would reinvent myself to get you interested again. Alice spilled Coke on my neck that day at work, so I took a shower when I got home. It never occurred to me that you'd actually take me to the bathroom and use me until I passed out. Then you repeated it later when we went to bed, and again the next night in the shower. I decided to show you how beautiful I look when I go to work, so that you would be a little jealous and think more about me and less about the woman you trained. That's why she waved a red flag in front of you about buying nice clothes while we were having dinner. When you stormed out of the room and stomped up the stairs, she giggled for 10 minutes. The reason she thought it was all so funny is because she knew you'd never cheat on me, so she didn't even bother. Dressing beautifully is one thing, but showing off at work, wearing short skirts and going without underwear is not a joke. I insisted, trying my best to follow Sue's bizarre logic. I've never gone to work like this. I changed at my mom's on the way there and again on the way home, so you'd think I'd been like this all day. I've been waiting for you to come home so you can see what's up my skirt when I'm at the top of the stairs, Sue confessed before adding, I did this trick to get you hot. The fog was gradually dissipating. In a strange way, Sue's story made sense. Apparently, the IT guy from her company turned off my camera without knowing what it was. This meant that she didn't know that I thought she was cheating on me, and that I had installed a camera in our room to catch her in the act. It seemed to me that it would be better if Sue did not find out about my distrust. It might give me a slight advantage in our relationship, and a man needs every advantage point he can get. I'm very disappointed that you didn't come to me and tell me about your problems, I said hypocritically. I didn't mention Janice to you because I knew her exhibitionist style would upset you. If it's any consolation, she did so well that the boss hired her full-time today and gave her Jim Barton's old neighborhood, now that he's retired. I won't see her anymore. You've seen enough of her already, Sue replied with a smile. They even seem to defy gravity, don't they? I agreed with a chuckle before getting serious. The fact that you suspected me of cheating because I took a shower a couple of minutes later than usual is very upsetting. Then, when I tried to be more romantic, you automatically assumed that I had a mistress. You swallowed that nonsense in Cosmo hook, line and sinker. Instead of believing in me, you believed a magazine article written by some kid living in his parents' basement. What kind of spouse thinks that? I demanded. So it turns out that you practically confessed your infidelity yourself when you took a shower as soon as you returned home on Monday evening. I had sweet water on my back and even in my ass. That's not considered cheating by any manual. Speaking of your ass, tell me, how did you manage to prepare my dinner so dramatically today? It's still warm, but you managed to cover all the right places with it. Emily helped me. When your pickup truck pulled into the driveway, she started decorating me. She went out the back door to visit her friends when you came in through the garage. In fact, she came up with this idea for a spicy dinner after she saw the video where you threw that fool out of our bedroom. She had read about something similar in the book 40 Shades of Green or A Jealous Spouse. What exactly made you put the salmon in there? I asked out of curiosity. Sue smiled slyly, considering my question. I know how you think after all these years spent together. If it smells like fish, you'll eat it.